Get my 6. You like my new shirt? It's too hot for hats. So, guys, I'm going to do a bit of thinking out loud here with you. Something just threw something at me. It's spring, late spring. There are no nuts falling from trees right now. That won't happen for a few more months. So we're going to enter the forest here. Keep getting my 6. I've been doing some thinking all afternoon and here into the early evening. About maybe hanging it up for real. Not the channel. Still going to do plenty of gardening, tree growing, agriculture, or not agriculture, but horticulture, stuff like this. But maybe get back to focusing more on green beans and corn, I guess, and a little less of what we've kind of been consumed by, I guess, for the last year and a half. Here's a hint. And this is an idea given to me by somebody who's in the know. You know, I take advice from people who comment on the channel. And, I read this stuff. I mean, just to answer one of the most common questions we get, yes, we do have ticks around here, and I get a couple on me a week. I keep my eye on that. I'm conscious of that. And I'm going to do some slow panning, and we are doing this in high definition. So I'm going to have to limit the length of this video in order for it to not take 8 hours to upload. But a lot of you have said, go talk to Eli. Where's Eli? Some of you have shown great concern for Eli because you haven't seen anything from him in like 8 months. Well, guess where I went today? I spent the majority of my day out talking with Eli. And yes, I thought I saw that too, so I'll stay right here for a minute. I don't know Eli well, but those of you who've seen some of his videos, you know that he's not old, but he's older than me. He's in his probably mid-60s. He's been around the block, and I have a tendency to listen to my elders if they've actually done things, you know, if they have experience, which he does. And we were talking because of recent events around here. My theory being that what we may or may not be picking up here lately as far as activity goes and whatnot is not potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch. As he, she, it, or they may be off in their breeding grounds. Something else may have moved in here and taken their place. And he reminded me that he had his first encounter with this dogman creature. What's that? See that? Get my 6, people. And to answer that question, for a lot of you folks that don't know what that means look directly behind me. It's like directions on a clock. The forward direction which I'm facing would be the 12 o'clock on a clock, and then of course behind me is a 6. I can't see everywhere at once. But he says, you know how you see people say, you know, once you see it, you can't unsee it, or I was like, yeah. He goes, things work a little bit differently with these creatures. And he said he had reason to believe it may be the case as well with potentially Bigfoot Sasquatch. He says it's not so much of a problem being that once you see something like that, you can't unsee it. You'll always remember it. he said that the problem he's had with the dog man, which he kind of retold his story to me again. He saw it back in the 80s. And this is, I mean, so this was almost 40 years ago, 30 to 40 years ago. He said that he feels the mistake he made was that he pursued the creature. He followed it. And he allowed the creature to know that he'd seen it. He said if you see one of these things, you get a glimpse, it doesn't see, maybe it saw you first, but you don't want them to know you saw them. Because he said it's not about not being able to unsee them once you've seen them. That's one thing. He said the problem with, he believes, all cryptids is that once they know you've seen them, they don't forget. And he feels potentially it's why he's been pursued halfway across the country all these years later. And he mentioned to me that perhaps it's time to simply leave well enough alone. And he pointed out, he said, you know, it's been almost 40 years in his case. He says this is one of those things that once you pursue it to a certain point, it begins to pursue you back. And he said to me, how much of your life do you want to have committed to this issue? Guys, I'm hearing some like creepy howls, grunts, and what sounds like screams. I don't know if my phone's picking this up. But his point was, he said to me, he says, you know, Kevin, he says, you're not a young man per se, you're middle-aged. He said, but if this thing that I pursued relentlessly back when I had my encounter with it, it's pursuing me all these years later. He said, think about it. You're out here pursuing these things actively. You're broadcasting it to the world. He says you're in your mid-40s. How old will you be another 40 years from now if these things decide to relentlessly pursue you back? So, well, I'm going to be in my mid-80s. And he said, exactly. It's getting closer. It almost sounds like a woman's voice. I'm out here alone, and there's no one. Anyway, he told me I needed to do some heavy-duty thinking. And I seriously need to consider hanging this thing up. I mean, I might be able to elude these things on a good day these days. Being that I am, you know, still relatively youngish, I guess. But I'm fit and I'm active. But despite any best efforts on my part, that might not be the case. Should I be blessed with another 40 years from now? So I don't know. I'm just kind of, keep your eyes on it. He got me to thinking, you know, and so I came up here this evening. Temperatures dropped some. I'm just thinking about it, so I thought I'd think out loud. Now, don't worry, it's not like this is going to be the last video I ever do. I mean, that's a big bumblebee. I got plenty of stuff around here. I mean, this week we've been getting tons of people watching videos we've got on the channel about hummingbird feeders we made a couple years ago. And of course, people are always trying to figure out how to keep flies out of their house year round. Albeit that stuff's not nearly as interesting as this stuff. Helpful. And guys, make sure if you're feeding the hummingbirds this time of year, make sure that you can take those feeders apart, to the degree to where you can clean them very thoroughly. You don't want to have any bacteria out there for those beautiful little birds because it'll kill them. Okay? I don't know. After talking to this man who claims to have been relentlessly pursued for the last 40 years because he let the creature know that he saw it, we picked up some strange things on some of these videos. And when I go back and watch the review of this one, I mean, who knows? You guys call out the timestamps, who, what, when, and where of what we might have even picked up here. But it seriously got me thinking. It might be time to hang it up. Because I don't know if, like that guy, I want to be running from these kind of things my whole life. I'm not in the habit now, nor have I ever been, of running from anyone or anything. But he made me think. Time marches on, we all age, and we all lose a step. Something threw something at me again. So just some thoughts, thinking out loud. Share your thoughts if you'd like. I'm not going to give up hiking. I guess I can always just come out into these woods and hike and go back into the lair, which I plan on doing here again real soon. I guess I could accidentally pick some things up in the background of these videos without intentionally attempting to. But even that might be too dangerous. Just not sure. I feel like I'm at a crossroads, and I do feel better having talked about it. Again, I'm not concerned about not being able to unseen some of the things we have seen in these videos. My concern is about these things forgetting that I've seen them. Because according to my buddy, they don't.